the fact that such a person was able to get confirmed as a minister. Remember that getting to be a minister is two processes. You are nominated by the president. I think many of us have come to the conclusion that the current president is not fit for purpose, so he doesn't get it. So he can nominate somebody like that. But then what about the National Assembly? The National Assembly failed to do their work. This bow and go nonsense thing that they have, it's clearly a problem. I rest my case.
Thank you, Cheta. You spoke to truth on many levels, and that screening part is where most of the questions came up on Monday when we first treated this issue and asked really, well, there was a screening process, just so we can remind ourselves that the screening process was supposed to unearth some of those questions or details of his past that can't be ignored, because some commenters or those who are probably in support or aligning with his camp were saying that, oh, he shouldn't be judged by sins of the past and stuff like that. But that's why there's a screening process. Not just to verify how suitable you are for the office, but also to find out if there's any damning case that you have pending that could jeopardize your position that you're vying for. Cheta, thank you for that comment. Keep your messages coming into WhatsApp, 0809 444 0981. Thank you for those joining on Instagram Live at Valentine Ohu, at Smooth981, Jean Ohu, Kavinton. Thank you for joining. Tolagbe, let's get to this next story. Speaking on the IPOB issue and Masob asylum, the United Kingdom granted asylum to a few people that covers which IPOB and Masob falls under that category. And it was greeted with serious antagonism by the federal government. Speaking on behalf of the federal government was the Minister of Information and Culture, Lai Mohammed, who said that was disrespectful to the sovereignty of Nigeria. He said some other words in expressing his angst, but the British government reacted to that. In their response, they said it has a proud history of providing protection to those who need it. What are your thoughts to this, please?
Okay, so I think, fortunately, I was here yesterday when we actually discussed this the first time. So, I'm back again to do almost like the follow-up, although it was Devo that talked about it yesterday. Now, what's really interesting is the UK published guidelines. You publish guidelines for a number of reasons. The first is that these decisions could be appealed in court. So you want to have a clearly laid down, set of procedures and criteria, so that if you meet the criteria, you can apply. If you apply without meeting the criteria, and you appeal, it can be turned down. So in countries or in climes where people want to operate by procedure, there is nothing new about this. Now, policy and procedure will only be laid down if there have been enough incidents or if something has sparked this. Do you understand? The UK government will not just wake up and publish criteria for Masob and IPOB if they haven't been having the cases and their analysts haven't been saying it looks like there is a note, there will be a requirement for this. They also went ahead to make a clear distinction between, and for those of you who know me, I love things like this, between prosecution and persecution. They don't mean the same thing. And the UK government says, we know the difference between people who are being prosecuted for legitimate crimes and those who are being persecuted for their beliefs, their freedom of assembly, their freedom of association as guaranteed under the United Nations. So what they are coming back to say is, hey guys, we know what we did, we know why we did it, and we, as also having a history, plan to continue to operate within the parameters of known and understood international law. What's interesting is that prominent Igbo groups have supported this guidelines and this identification. You see, I think to say it's an offer of asylum is somewhat overstating the case. That's not what they're saying. They're saying, if you want to come, this is how to come. They're not saying everybody come. And so I feel that in a way, Nigeria's reaction was a bit disproportionate to what actually transpired.
And might I add that
Can I say what?
It wasn't peculiar to the IPOB or MASOP. It was a general guideline that the UK releases alongside, I mean, that goes with their immigration policy.
No. Valentine, there was a full document, 50-something pages, which I read. But what Tolagbe has said again about our government's reaction and all that is a classic example of why they make us write IELTS. It's clear that Nigerians don't understand English. Away from all of that, I want to actually focus on what I think is the real issue here. I think that the government is just grandstanding. There's nothing that will strain our relationship with the UK, because at the end of the day, Buhari will still need to go there to do his treatment when he wants to travel again. The guidelines released by the UK lend credence to observations that the approach of the Nigerian government in responding to IPOB has been heavy-handed, and that heavy-handed response leads to increasing levels of human rights abuses against IPOB supporters and among the Igbo population of the country. I've talked about it on air before. At the end of 2015 and early 2016, my organization did a survey in the Southeast, and we found that support for the whole concept of Biafra was 39% among the population. 39% then. So which means that if a referendum had been held at that time, IPOB would have lost. But because of the way the government has behaved, that support has gone up. And even among those of us that were strongly pan-Nigerian before, we've become ambivalent. And I'm including myself. So that is the problem. Rather than face issues squarely and handle them appropriately, we always resort to the use of force, essentially to somebody who only has nails in his who only has the hammer as his tool. Every problem is a nail, and that is what has led us here. IPOB is not a terrorist organization, regardless of how unsavory their language is. But you have now elevated the level, and this rebuke, because that's what it is, it's a rebuke by the UK. It's essentially telling the government that you people have done bad, boys. That's essentially what the UK is telling them.
Thank you for that, Tolagbe and Cheta. Let's take messages on WhatsApp. This one here from Austin in Bagada reads, please, with all the problems in the country, I want to ask, what can the president do to solve the problem for the citizens of this country? Just asking the question before, because I haven't seen anything yet. Lulu says, to my knowledge, when anyone is nominated to be minister, I believe they go through a background and security check by the relevant authorities. So my question is, when Pantami's extremist messages flagged during those checks, how can anyone with that kind of past rhetoric pass a security and background check? Also, what exactly is the point of the Senate screening process if someone or something like this did not come up during his confirmation hearing? Please add your names to your messages so we can take them. Samuel from Lekki says, it's either the president does not care about the Nigerians and the way or what they say, or he does not even hear what they say. The DSS informed him about Magu, he appointed him anyway. Pantami, he appointed anyway. National Assembly advised the service chiefs be removed, he refused to late. We're told the president wanted only those he knew as ministers and delayed for 6 months before selecting his ministers. Even the president has been accused of holding brief for said people. Now, message from Abimbola reads, terrorists do not repent. When what Pantami's appointment shows, despite the DSS reports and all, shows that PMB isn't truly fighting terrorism. We're not seeing results because his government is full of people like Pantami who are setting up, okay, the remaining part of the story I can't take, or rather the message. Francis from Ojo says, Biko, how can I join how can I join IPOB to seek British asylum? Let me use this opportunity to relocate to the UK. That's Coco Francis, thank you. Plato from Isolo says, who said the Nigerians do not resign? I remember that during the sale of NEPA, the power minister in person, Berth Naji, did throw in the towel. Please, Mr. Issa should do the needful. They expected, unless there's something the government is not telling Nigerians, I don't think there is, Issa did pray at the FEC, please fix this country and make it work again. Barua says the government does not practice.
For the record, Berth Naji was forced out.
Oh, he was forced out, you say. Okay, thank you, Cheta, for that clarity. All right. Barua says the government does not practice federal character. All the appointments is based on that and that. Thank you for that. Shano says, I'm omitting some things because there are some things I'm not tenable for radio. Shano from Ilukweju says, it's just a shame that our institutions aren't strong enough or even ready to do their duty. This thing is a security issue and should be treated as such. People in government aren't supposed to hold, not to talk about publicly espousing radical laws or views, rather. Not because they do not have a right to, but simply because it does not serve well for the optics and is problematic on many layers for the administration of public office. Let's get to our third story. Cheta, I would like your view on this headline. Gunmen abduct 23 from Greenfield University in Kaduna. They demand 800 million naira. So that ransom demand was revealed by a parent of one of the students, but there's been no official confirmation of the number of students abducted so far. But what are your thoughts on this?
I'm gonna reduce that to it's distracted. It's playing in my head.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah. It's really sorry about the children or the kids who have been kidnapped. Well, I'm sounding I'm sounding like one old Nigerian. They're university students, so they are not exactly kids. But it's really sad about the people who have been kidnapped, and it only goes to show essentially we're reaping the whirlwind. You have a situation where we've essentially encouraged men with guns to run around freely in our country. So what do we expect? Let's compare and contrast the rapidity with which IPOB was declared a terrorist organization and proscribed, and the kind of heavy-handed treatment that is brought to bear whenever there's a whiff of, oh, it is IPOB doing something, or it is MASOB, or it is BZF. And then compare with the fact that Ahmad Gumi, as an example, went into the forest, took pictures with some of these kidnappers, came out and was essentially speaking on their behalf. We've encouraged this behavior. That is what has happened. So why are we surprised? Remember that in that same Kaduna, students from the Forestry Mechanization College have been missing for almost a month now. We've just moved on from that. Nigeria is just one big crime scene, I beg.
Your thoughts go to WhatsApp 0809-444-0981. If you have any thoughts to share regarding any of the stories, please do so on that platform, as well as Twitter at Smooth981FM, the hashtag FreshlyPress981. Thank you, Cheta, for your analysis on that story. The Guardian reports, Tolagbe, that customs have impounded 42 drums of explosives from Benin Republic. They said the containers of the drums contained calcium carbide, and that is a very volatile substance. When mixed with water, could be used to form explosives as well as other things. They said it has the capacity of blowing up buildings when used in small quantities, but that's not all they discovered. But what are your thoughts on this story and the revelations by the customs boss?
Okay, so calcium carbide it can be used to make explosives because when it is combusted, it releases something called acetylene. However, it can also be used to manufacture fertilizer. It can be used in steel making. And so it's not just or purely, it's not only terrorists or potential terrorists that use the carbide. But so, I mean, perhaps they didn't have a legitimate license. Perhaps we don't know what it's being used for, etc. But I mean, let's, I find there's a tendency for rather alarmist headlines. People always want to show that they're working. It could be being used for a quarry. We don't know, okay? But what we do know is that importing anything has become such a tedious and tiring process that Benin has become, or Benin Republic has become the major choice for people who are serious about getting their goods out. So, it's hard to sort of look at this in abstract and not recognize the chaos at the ports. Possibly someone needs they need their raw materials, and it's easy to sort of blame everybody. Legitimate businesses often find themselves having to deploy illegitimate means just so that they can actually carry out their work. So I'm going to put that to one side. What I also found interesting was that petrol was also intercepted. 33,000 liters of PMS smuggled to Benin. And this is obviously in the wake of, again, because I was here yesterday, there's no fuel in Abuja. People are queuing in Abuja, and our petrol is being driven across the border. So, what does that speak to? Does that speak to the wrong pricing? Is this about the subsidy? Do we really want to unpack all the mess that is going on? Sometimes, I don't know. And then they also talk about just how many millions they've made so far. They've made 70.8 million from export trade. And again, as I say, this speaks to the ingenuity and high resilience of Nigerians against all odds, against NAFDAC, against everybody, against insecurity. Yeah. We're still managing to export cashew nuts, ginger, hibiscus flowers, sesame seeds, zircon sand. But again, what is interesting, and this is what is clear, half of this is the usual unrefined materials that are being exported to where they will be processed, finished, and sold for more margin. So they said they also generated 38.8 billion as revenue from importation and finished goods. So I feel like this kind of news article actually sums up exactly what's going on. We can't import legitimately our requirements, so we often have to smuggle them. And then when they are being smuggled, they'll be called something else. We can't get petrol to use, but our petrol will be sent to the neighboring countries. We can't use our ports, so our goods will be diverted to the neighboring ports, and then they'll come in that way, and people will talk about revenue. And then finally, we will continue to export unrefined, unfinished goods at sub-marginal pricing, and we'll import finished goods and pay other people to do the work that we can do ourselves. So that's my analysis of this story.
Thank you so much for that. And I like the laughter at the end because
what do you do? You laugh now. You cannot be crying every day, so you just have to laugh. Okay?
We can't. We have to say things as they are. And I like your analysis, and I like that you're very clear and direct with some of the words you use, especially when you said against, which causes worry for me because it should be for. I mean, not against. We have agencies that are set up to work in favor of Nigerians, but what we see sometimes, it seems like the government agencies are set up to antagonize and almost stifle businesses. And
when we continue to fall like 152 or 148 in ease of doing business, this is precisely why. I don't want to belabor the point. I don't know what the calcium carbide is for. You know what I mean? But I just know that sometimes legitimate business owners, legitimate people are forced to carry out these things because the system is, the system does not allow them to do anything else. So, if we were
in and of itself, it doesn't make it okay. But what I was saying is, we should be striving towards ensuring that the agencies work in tandem with businesses and work in favor of businesses to try to show them if you're making mistakes, you're going the wrong routes, they should show you where to go, like how to do things properly.
But
I think the real issue here is not even about the calcium carbide itself, but about the fact that we have so restricted imports into a country that doesn't produce anything that people are forced to go to smuggle. That's essentially what has happened. It's a trade issue.
And that's what I was saying, So it's easy to single out this item, and I said none of us here are scientists. None of us know what any legitimate business could be using that particular item for. But it's easy for government or government agencies to wake up and say, oh, these people are bad. We don't know. Do you understand? But if they could legitimately fill out their Form M, legitimately get their FX at a reasonable rate, legitimately import their thing and not spend 3 months waiting for it at the ports, legitimately get it from the ports and it not take another, it costs right now the same amount to get it, to ship it to the port as it does to get it from the port to your destination. So what are we talking about? Of course, you're going to smuggle it across the road, across the border. You know,
So
as we say in Yoruba,
so both-
let's speak to where the matter is. You know,
Yeah.
to be thorough. You know.
Thank you. That's, I mean, good. Perfect that you spoke in Yoruba. That just underscores the point you made. And really, what worries me in some of these stories is naming figures. It's almost like the agencies are being turned into revenue-generating agencies, and it's sometimes can lead to wanton things like this.
Devoid of context, devoid of what the material reasons are.
Yeah, to speak to your point as well, Cheta and Tolagbe, Dele sent in this message on WhatsApp, which is very true. He says calcium carbide is primarily used by welders. The lady's analysis is excellent. Thank you. Let's move on very quickly.
Was I there? I study science. I mean,
Cheta, there's this next story on this day newspaper. I'd like you to share your thoughts on this. An analyst expressed outrage as police deploy 144 personnel to tackle insecurity in Somalia. I mean, we know that we'll sign into some peace treaty with as part of the African Union, but what are your thoughts on this? Because critics are saying, in spite of the fact that we're facing security challenges within, why send that many personnel to Somalia when we haven't tackled our own enough? Do you agree?
I don't exactly agree with the analyst, though. So let me explain.
Okay.
Nigeria's police force has about 371,000 personnel, thereabouts. These 371,000 policemen are poorly paid, usually not paid on time. I mean, it's a mess. In 2018, a former Inspector General of the Police, Michael Kiro, who is with the Police Service Commission, if memory serves me, I don't know if he has stepped down, but anyway, he said that of that 371,000 policemen, that about 150,000 of them are attached to VIPs, people that those policemen that follow Valentine around every day. So
I don't have a police escort.
that leaves us with about 167,000 policemen in the country for actual policing work. And that is far short of when you divide that 167,000 policemen by the number of people in the country, it means that we have 1,251 people per policeman. Even if all 317,000 policemen were deployed on policing duties, we will still be far short of the recommended United Nations ratio for policing, which is 1 policeman per 400 people. The full complement of the Nigerian police will bring it to 565, 1 policeman for 565 people. The effective complement, which is that removing the 150,000 that are doing boy for VIPs, brings it to 1,251 people per policeman. So I don't see the problem, because removing 144 brings it to 1,253. It's the same thing. It's the same difference. The real issue here is what I said at the beginning: poorly remunerated and not paid on time a lot of the time. Basically, whenever they go for these foreign missions, they are paid. So my question would be 2 things. Number one, why didn't the police announce this thing? Why did they do it sneakily? Because that's what opens the door for the second thing, which is favoritism. Which means that it's, in my mind, they probably sent some of their favorites for this mission, so that those their favorites can get paid, when it's something that should be open, so that they will send the best to represent the country. That's where I'm coming from. Otherwise, there's really 1,251 people per policeman, 1,253 people per policeman. It makes no difference.
Thank you for that, Cheta. Thank you. The point of revenue without clear KPIs is so apt. Her analysis is spot on. That's what JP thinks. Shannon says, I love your analysts. Many of these issues are systemic. Please, why aren't the security agencies just following up to find out the origin of the cargo? And Godwin from Bagada says, Issa Pantami should drop out, be tried because of for terrorism ideologies. And that's at the conflict with federal government's war against terrorism, or at conflicts with federal government's war against terrorism. But Nigerians, press, and civil society should continue to ask for his resignation. Taya from Aja says, let's not forget that 4 police officers attached to a Big Brother contestant without foreign. This has no relevance.
Yeah,
no,
there was a picture that circulated a few days ago on social media. Former Big Brother housemates had a police brigade of 4 men guarding him. Again, this policemen being attached to big boys. It's a revenue thing. To get policemen now, to get a single policeman now, you are spending nothing less than 250K. How much is their salary? Let's be realistic about this thing. When you pay peanuts, you get monkeys. So simple and short, these guys, they need to feed their families. I don't support it. I must say that. But we need to be realistic that this is where we are.
But before the announcements made by the president to pause or stop the issuance of firearm licenses, there was also an announcement for the withdrawal of police attaches to private personnel. But I get your point.
Valentine, every police inspector general since Musiliu Smith has withdrawn policemen from roadblocks. Every police inspector general since Tafa Balogun has withdrawn police protection from VIPs. What are we saying?
Same thing. Tolagbe Martins, thank you so much. Cheta Nwanze, thank you. You know how much I appreciate both of you. Cheta, you know how much I appreciate you. Tolagbe, thank you. Tolagbe is tolagbe.com on social media. Cheta is at Chexta, CHXTA. If you want to ask questions, follow up on the conversation, please use the hashtag FreshlyPress981. Special thanks to everyone who joined on Instagram Live at Smooth981, at Valentine Ohu. Good morning. Up next is the great